If I were to point at you, you would either think I'm the most nervous person alive with the way my hands shake, or you would think he has Syringomyelia and Chiari malformation. Now, if you didn't think that exact thought, you might not know what Syringomyelia and Chiari malformation are, so I'll tell you. Chiari malformation and Syringomyelia are a pair of neurological diseases that often coincide, but not always, and I'll tell you about Chiari malformation first. Chiari malformation is when brain tissue, typically the cerebellum, sags down from the back of your brain, down in between your spinal cord and a portion of your skull. There it is compressed and causes some pretty noticeable symptoms. And it's actually fairly common, with 200,000 cases being diagnosed a year, and that roughly corresponds to 1 in 1,000 births, as it is often diagnosed at birth. If you didn't get diagnosed with it from birth like I did, then you'll go in for like routine scanning, sometimes a concussion, sometimes for something else, and they'll find the Chiari malformation because it's pretty noticeable, and they'll tell you about it. Syringomyelia is actually caused by Chiari malformation a lot of the time, and it is the more severe of the two. Syringomyelia is when a fluid-filled syrinx, also known as a cyst of spinal fluid, happens into your spine, and usually with Chiari malformation it happens in the upper spine, but with other diseases it can happen all over the place. Like if you have a spinal tumor or a kink in your spine, then it can be anywhere from the bottom all the way to the top. It usually has more pretty severe symptoms that I'll talk about right here. For Chiari malformation, you'll get headaches and neck pain, typically when you bend over, or cough, or sneeze, and that's usually a telltale sign that you have Chiari malformation, or you should go get a scan to see if you do. Syringomyelia specifically can cause pain in your arms and shoulders. That can go down one arm or both arms, and the other one be completely fine. You can lose feelings in your extremities, and that can be bad if you handle sharp objects a lot or touch hot things a lot, because you could burn yourself or cut yourself and not even know you did it. Shaking hands, which I already talked about at the beginning of the video, is from the compression and spinal fluid not making it all the way through. And some people can even have trouble walking or even get paralysis. And that's usually in the more severe cases if left untreated. Here's a picture of a healthy brain without Chiari malformation, and here's a picture of a brain with Chiari malformation. You can see the cerebellum is that leaf-like structure right there, and that's the part that sags down. With the red circle, you can see where the cerebellum has actually closed into this gap that it's not supposed to be in and is getting compressed. Over here, you can see that the gap is there and that there's no gap in the top, and there's also a gap in the top on the Chiari brain, and that gap is actually usually measured in like terms of millimeters, just to see how far it's progressed, but brains come in all shapes and sizes, so that's not always the most reliable way to measure it. Syringomyelia is what happens when Chiari malformation blocks spinal fluid flow. And here's an MRI of a healthy spine. You can see the spinal fluid is that stuff in the middle there, and it flows through fine. But in this spine right here, it is being prevented and has caused syrinx, which the white arrow points to. And here is a larger syrinx that is pretty noticeable, and this is what they'll show you when you get diagnosed. And if you get Syringomyelia, they'll recommend that you get a procedure done to remove the syrinx. What they do is they break up this small bone right here at the base of the skull, just to give the cerebellum a little more room to sag down and breathe a little bit so the compression stops. And then after they do that, they'll go in with a spinal tap and just take out all the spinal fluid and hope it doesn't come back, because they relieve the Chiari malformation. That's it.